So what we want to work on here is finding compound interest. And compound interest is when a bank pays interest on the principal and on the interest that an account has earned. Previously, you've probably learned about simple interest, and simple interest is where you just gain interest on the principal, on the money you put in the bank. But on compound interest, the nice thing is you'll make interest on the money you put in the bank, and then at the end of the interest term, you'll make interest on your principal and on the interest you had already gained in the first interest term. Balance is the principal plus the interest, and that becomes the principal on which the bank's going to figure the next interest payment. So balance is how much money you have at the end of that interest term. So one way to do this, kind of the slow way, is to make a table. Okay? So if we had to make the table, we would start by putting $625 in the bank. And our interest rate is 2%, so we're going to multiply by 0.02 for 2. And that would give us $12.50 of interest. So at the end of the year, we'd have $637.50. Now, back when we did simple interest, we would say, oh, that's easy. Every year I make $12.50 in interest. The nice thing about compound interest, when you start year 2, you start with that $637.50. So now I have a new beginning balance, and again I'm going to multiply by 2%. And this time I would make $12.75 in interest, and now my ending balance is $650.25. So now's a good time to pause, see if you can fill out the rest of the chart, and then check back in with me. So on year 3 here, you started with $650.25. Multiply that by 2%, 0.02, and you probably got a little goofy number. But remember, since we're talking about money, let's just round to the nearest penny. So by rounding to the nearest penny, you probably made $13.01, which finishes at $663.26. So you're starting year 4 with $663.26. Again, when you multiply by 2%, you probably get a goofy looking decimal. Let's round to the nearest penny. So now you have $13.27. So grand total, final balance, $676.53. Making a chart is a great way. However, it takes time. And pretend you left your money in the bank for 8 years, 10 years, 15 years. You don't want to make a chart that lasts that long. So we can use a formula. Okay? Our formula looks like this. B, which stands for final balance, equals P, which stands for the principal, in parentheses 1 plus R. R is your interest rate. Remember, your interest rate has to be written as a decimal. So if it's 1%, change it to a decimal, 0.01. If it's 0.9%, then you got to change it to a decimal, 0.009. Let's see. N is the number of interest periods, so number of times they're going to pay you interest. So you will notice this is the exact same problem from before, but this time we're going to use the formula. Okay? So the formula says take your principal, and then in parentheses 1 plus your interest rate, which is 2%, 0.02. Number of times you're going to get paid interest. Well, I get paid once a year for 4 years, so that's a 4. Type all that in. You might get a decimal that has to take some rounding. You finish with $676.52. Now, if you're paying attention here, you'll notice when we did the chart, we finished with $676.53. Well, that's because when we did the chart, we had to do some rounding a couple times. When you use the formula that we use here, you don't do any rounding until the very end. So using the formula is actually more accurate and obviously faster. The only thing, if you type one little part in wrong, obviously your answer is going to be wrong. Okay? This is very, very important because some banks are going to pay you interest every 6 months or every 3 months or every 2 months or even every month. So what you need to always do is take your interest rate and divide it by the number of payments each year. For example, if your interest rate was 2%, you'd say, okay, 0.02 divided by, well, if they're going to pay me every 6 months my interest, then I would divide it by 2 because I'd be getting 2 payments each year. You also need to take your number of years and multiply that by your number of payments each year. So you left your money in the bank, let's say for 3 years, and you're getting paid every 3 months, so 4 times a year. You'd say, oh, 3 times 4, I'm getting a total of 12 payments. Let's see how that works. So you've got $900 in an account and it's going to earn 2%. First thing I like to do is circle my percent, change it into my decimal, 0.02. And then we wrote that little note to ourselves. We have to take our interest rate and we have to divide it by the number of payments each year. Well, they give me a clue here. Annually means once a year. So I'm just going to divide that by 1. Well, that's easy, 0.02. Okay? The other thing we have to do is find out how many years did we leave our money in the bank? 3 years. We wrote a little note to ourselves. We've got to take our number of years and multiply it by our number of payments each year. Hey, that's once a year. Multiply it by 1, we get 3. Now we're ready to set this up. Our principal was $900. 1 plus 0.02. And our exponent is 3. We type all that in. Might have to do some rounding. We finish with $955.09. Now you'll notice the next problem is the same as the one above it. The only thing different, okay, is that this person, Wilma, is getting interest paid twice a year. Okay? Still have the same amount of money to start, $900, still getting 2%, still leaving our money in the bank for 3 years. However, they're getting paid their interest semi-annually, which means twice a year. And getting paid your interest more often means you're going to make a little more money. So remember what we got to do. Take our 2%, change it to a decimal, and then we have to divide it by the number of payments each year. We're getting paid twice a year, so we're going to divide by 2. So that gives us 0.01. And you might think, well, wait a minute, I'm getting less interest. You're going to see as we go through here, you're actually going to make more money. The other thing we got to do is take our number of years, in this case 3, and we multiply that by our number of payments each year. We're getting paid twice a year, so we multiply, we get 6 there. So to set this up, we take our principal, in parentheses, 1 plus our interest rate. Remember, our interest rate was 2%, but since we're getting paid twice a year, we're going to use 1%, 0.01. Our exponent, number of times we get paid interest. Well, we're getting paid twice a year for 3 years. That's a grand total of 6. So our exponent is 6. We type all that in, and we finish with $955.37. You'll notice this is a little more than this. Okay? Yeah, it's only a few pennies, but if you left your money in there longer, or you were able to somehow find somebody that pays your interest more often, you're going to make more money. All right, good luck with compound interest.